Good afternoon, brothers and sisters. I appreciate you taking the time to join our discussion on current and future trends in metal buildings in the metal building industry. My name is David Beard. I'm 7th General Vice President, also President of the District Council of St. Louis and vicinity, and I've been working with our Metal Building Committee for the last 6 years. Several years ago, I sat on a presentation given by the President of the Metal Building Manufacturers Association. His presentation showed that the market is spread fairly evenly across the US and Canada. So it's clear that all of our locals have a metal building market. The difference is how much we participate in it. The Metal Building Committee has been working with manufacturers to offer apprentice schools, locals, and contractors enhanced training. We have also been encouraging locals and district councils to draft agreements that will help them grow their existing market share and enter a market if they're not currently performing work there. We've also been reaching out to manufacturers, owners, and contractors promoting our training and agreements. Today, I've asked 3 contractors that have been active in our conversations to join me in a discussion on what changes they see in the market, the training necessary to keep us competitive, and how we can work better together to ensure we have contractors bidding on every project in our area. All 3 of them work in multiple locals, multiple states, so they understand what it's like doing business in various jurisdictions. To start out, my slides aren't moving, unfortunately. To start out, I have Brad Churchill, CEO and owner of US Erectors, US Crane and Equipment, and US Metal Builders, all based in Des Moines, Iowa. Brad went to Iowa State University and has a bachelor's in science and construction engineering. He has 29 years in the steel erection industry, including 15 years at US Erectors. US Erectors specialize in steel precast and metal building erection across the United States. Brad has one of the largest geographic footprints of any of our metal building erectors, the largest new builder for Varco Pruden metal buildings, largest project in the central region for Varco Pruden metal buildings, 5th straight year, top 100 metal builders, Metal Construction News, and he's a certified precast erector. US Metal Builders Incorporated, US Metal Builders is a spinoff from US Erectors that was started in 2019. US Metal Builders is dedicated to pre-engineered market, working 100,000+ man-hours per year. Brad's family includes his wife, Tammy, 3 children, Maddie, Trevor, and Ellie. And he, as a footnote, started US Erectors to build the final phase of Lutheran Church of Hope. Secondly, we have Todd Cooper. He's a structural division general manager for Foundation Steel. He has been in the construction industry for over 20 years. He entered the local 55 apprenticeship in 2013. He's worked as general foreman, project manager. Since 2018, he's been the general manager. Foundation Steel has been named in Metal Construction's top 40 for the last 2 years. In the last survey, reporting over 750,000 square foot of metal buildings, and that's in 1 year. That's a huge accomplishment. In 2020, Foundation Steel was listed among Inc. magazine's fastest growing private companies. Foundation Steel's area of operation typically cover all of Ohio, parts of Michigan, Indiana, and Northern Kentucky. They average over 200 ironworkers. Their scope includes steel erection, metal building installation, reinforcing steel fabrication and placement, and rigging and machinery moving. Thirdly, I have Dave Wills. Dave's been in the construction business for 28 years. He started his apprenticeship with Local 392 in 1998, has been ironworking ever since. Dave worked as a union steward, general foreman, superintendent, project manager, and started his own company, Wills Construction, in Highland, Illinois in 2007. In 2013, Dave signed up with United Ironworkers, who's been primarily a reinforcing company, building a structural steel and pre-engineered metal building division. That partnership has led to United Iron Workers reaching new benchmarks for performance and profitability ratios. United Iron Workers' scope of work includes supplying and installing pre-engineered metal buildings, fabric tent installation, conventional structural steel installation, ornamental railing installation, supplying and installing reborn post-tensioning, industrial maintenance work, structural renovation work, bridge work, conveyor work, heavy rigging, and they're an advanced certified steel erector. United Iron Workers employs 150 to 250 iron workers throughout the year. United Iron Workers crews are trained and certified for the following pre-engineered metal building markets. They hold certifications for A&S buildings, SECO, GARCO, MBCEI, MESCO, Metallic, Midwest, Star, Robertson, and American buildings. They also have various insulation certifications, multiple standing seam roof certifications, and insulated panel products. Looking at trends, a lot of buildings, you see the simple metal building and the very fancy ones such as automobile or dealerships with all different kinds of panels. I'm going to start with Brad. Brad, what kind of trends do you see in the industry?
Sure. David, thank you very much. And on behalf of David, Todd, and myself, want to thank you for allowing us to come here today to speak with you. As far as trends in the metal building industry right now, we're seeing a lot of pretty big changes from the old conventional building cladding panels. As far as exterior cladding systems, we're seeing very high-end architectural panels, concealed fastener systems. We're wrapping them in precast, and we're also starting to see the advent of pre-manufactured wall systems, whether they're clad in wood siding, whether they're clad in brick. We're starting to see those appear on a lot of job sites. As far as the roof systems, the old bag and sag insulation system really at this point is long gone. Most of the insulation systems we see now are a banded system, like a Skyweb or a simple Sabre insulation system, conceals all the purlins, conceals the insulation system up inside the cavities, also adds an extra layer of safety to the roof. IMP panels or insulated metal panels are becoming the norm on a lot of job sites, especially with a lot of data centers nowadays. Some of these are seamed, and some of them are actually just bare panels, and they put an IMP roof over the top of them. We're also seeing a rise in what we consider composite structures, especially in the industrial markets. We have a lot of true heavy structural buildings, all clad in metal panel systems. A lot of the manufacturers like Butler, Varco Pruden, Chief are now actually manufacturing the heavy structural to basically wrap the entire building in enclosure all into one package. So it's important that erectors pay attention to that and get involved in not only the structural steel, but also all the cladding and all the siding packages as well. Finally, one last item I just wanted to bring up is the warranties nowadays. Typically years ago, we had a 1-year warranty. Now we're seeing owners asking for 10, 20, even 30-year no dollar limit warranties. So with that, the training becomes crucial, installation becomes crucial to get these buildings put up and enclosed correctly. Thanks.
Todd, are you seeing the same trends?
Yeah, that's a good point Brad brought up too, is traditionally used to see a lot of these buildings 1-year warranty and that's it. But I would say probably a third to half of our buildings we're doing now are the no dollar limit 20-year, 25-year warranties. And you need very skilled tradesmen to make sure that you're installing it properly. Because the first 2 years, the erector's on the hook anyways. If there's any leaks or anything, I'm absolutely seeing a huge shift in the composite type buildings where they're half wood, half pre-engineered metal building. We are claiming the cladding, the roof and the siding on top of the wood cladding because that is part of the pre-engineered metal building. You're seeing a lot more architectural panels, IMP panels, and just a smorgasbord of mixing up IMP panels, reverse panels, stone, wood, even curtain walls. I started seeing, especially around the Toledo area here, a lot of curtain walls going on top of these panels, trying to get more artistic in their design. So,
All right. Dave, do you have anything to add to that?
Well, basically just going to echo what Brad and Todd just said. I mean, we're basically seeing the architectural designs of the buildings that they're changed drastically. You know, years ago, your basic buildings were just, you know, metal sheds per se, and now they're modern architectural constructions and designs. I don't know if anybody can see the slide. We got the slideshow moving now. You can see the difference in the two buildings there. You know, they are getting very advanced. And as the buildings get advanced, what we're seeing as well is the skilled labor it takes to put up those buildings, and that's key as far as when we go in other areas to achieve adequate manpower. You know, we see the metal buildings that are incorporating, you know, conventional steel, light gauge materials, and as well as many other exterior and interior finishes compared to the old days when you just basically just see panels on the interior and exterior of the buildings. And, as far as insulation, touch the same thing that Todd and Brad said. I mean, the Simple Savers, the double layer insulations, they are probably 95% of the projects we do are requiring the higher R value insulations.
So, Todd, that was leading into my next question. With the new energy codes, what changes do you see in the new insulation systems?
yeah, I mean, a lot of us who've been in the industry for a few years remembers old days of, like, you know, 4-inch on the sides and 6-inch in the roof. I mean, that's long gone. Even the bag and sag system is in some areas still usable, but it's going away. You're mostly seeing cavity filled, like Simple Saver, banded system, long tab system, IMP panels. Foundation Steel actually took advantage of a grant system through Bureau of Workmen's Comp and got the vast majority of the Cladboy Rotoboy system, which is pictured there in the slide in the top left, because it helps with ergonomics and the safety of our workers installing these panels, because some of them weigh, you know, 500, 600 pounds, sometimes more, depends how thick they are. But yeah, the days of the single layer insulation is gone. For the most part. I mean, now you have multiple levels. You have like the thermaliner system you have there. You put a layer of decking down, a layer of insulation. You're putting a bridge system so it holds the roof up and adds an additional layer of insulation, and then you're putting your roofing on. And they've gotten very involved with these roof systems. There's also some other systems that, you know, rigid board. And then once again, like I said, the Simple Saver, Energy Saver type systems.
All right. Dave, are you seeing the same thing? And what are these changes in the systems due to our man hours?
Yeah, we're seeing the same thing as well. And as far as man hours, I mean, it's increasing the ironworkers' man hours. We're constantly seeing the double layer tarp systems, but like Todd was just saying, we're seeing more of these bridge systems come into play. That's going to eliminate, I think, a lot of the tarp systems. But like I said, I like the tarp systems from the inside of the building. I think it gives a really nice, clean look. We have, I would say, a big quantity of the projects that we are doing. They are pretty much all Simple Saver installations, except when we get outside the rural areas. Then we still occasionally see the 6 and 4 roof and walls.
Right. And Brad, working a lot in the north, you must see a lot of the same systems.
Yes, we do. And also in the data center markets, the government markets, even some of the healthcare markets, we're seeing a pretty big trend on actually, you know, pressurized buildings, where they'll actually test and pressurize the building to make sure there's absolutely no leaks for air intrusion or for water intrusion. So getting these systems installed correctly is really the key.
Right. And with those pressure systems, I'm sure that installing it the first time is very key, because it's very expensive to go back and fix.
Yes.
Okay, with the next slide, we have a picture of a barn dominium, a re-roof, and some architectural panels. And many of the older buildings are reaching the end of their life expectancy. So a lot of them are going to need a re-roof. Dave, are you getting in any of these three markets? And if so, how are you able to compete?
Yeah, we are. We're seeing these. We're seeing this quite a bit in this area. We're seeing a large amount of residential re-roofs using metal panels, and we're actually pursuing some of that work on the residential side. We're also pursuing on the commercial side some re-roofs, retrofits, mostly over the top of some old screw-down roofs with some added insulation to get the R values up. So we're actively pursuing both types of this work on the commercial side and the residential side. And we're seeing a growing trend of, like I said, the metal roofs on the residential side of things, which is a tougher market, but we're pursuing it.
All right, Brad, are you having similar results?
Yes, most of the systems nowadays, and if you see the slide in the lower right, the re-roof systems are actually going over the top of the existing roof. We've seen built-up systems. We've seen them adding strength to the roof, adding insulation to the roof. But we can install these applications really without the owner ever knowing that we're there, without ever shutting down operations. It really is a pretty slick system. Basically adds 20, 30 years of longevity to the building without it ever being shut down, without going through the cost and expense of doing a complete tear off and rebuild.
And Todd, does Foundation Steel, do they chase any of these types of projects?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we do. We've done a few of the roof hugger type systems, like where Brad was talking about. You go over the top and just add your insulation. It basically raises the roof, 3-4 inches, whatever. It gives that additional insulation. We still do do a lot of the traditional tear off and re-roof type retrofits, but normally that's because of the rusting or rotting of the members underneath. Is typically when we get into that. Most of the companies we work with like to stay operational as you put a new roof on, so they can continue to make money.
All right, moving on to training. I have a list here of just various training. But Brad, with the new technologies incorporated in today's buildings, what type of training do locals need to be offering their members to maintain our competitiveness?
That's a great question, Dave, and kind of want to bring up a case study of something that we went through down at Local 75 down in Phoenix. We were fortunate to come down there and build a data center for a major client. The local at the time didn't have a tremendous amount of metal building experience, but through the help of Don Zampa, the district council president, Terry Wright, the business manager for Local 75, and George Fasista, the apprenticeship manager, we were able to put together a class. We partnered with Varco Pruden Metal Buildings. Varco Pruden designed a simple mock-up structure that incorporated the walls that we would see on site, the roof system that we would see on site, shipped it out to the training center about a month prior to us showing up. And the local was able to get between 25 and 30 guys to come in on their own time on a Saturday and Sunday, just to get the basics. For us, so when they came out to the job site, they at least knew what was going on. They kind of know the flow of the building. They kind of understand how the roof systems go together. So training like that is absolutely crucial for us to be productive and for us to be able to gain back market share. And if you reach out to a lot of these manufacturers, the manufacturers have the field reps there on staff. And we'd be more than happy to help you kind of arrange mock-ups and things like that to train the locals.
Right. And you told me before that really made the difference in that project. When a steel erector comes into town, they don't expect to have to teach guys how to do bar joists and bridging or bolt up or set steel. And it's really the same thing with metal buildings. When you come into town, you expect a guy to be able to come out and go to work.
Yeah, most of when we're traveling nationwide, it's a competitive business for us. We're generally the only union erector bidding any of these projects. So to be able to come in and compete with a trained workforce is absolutely crucial. And from our experience, we've had a lot of great successes going into locals. We've had some not so great successes, but the places that really kind of will work with us, get their employees trained, those are kind of places that we go back to. You know, and in fact, we're hopefully going to be going back to Phoenix or bidding another project down there this coming Friday, and hope we can come back down and do it again. You know, 30, 40,000 man hours a shot. You know, these are nice buildings to get.
Todd, what training do you see necessary today?
Well, like Brad was saying, the biggest training we need is familiarization with doing trim, that kind of stuff. Being able to, do 45-degree cuts and make a framed opening look good. We need more than just people being the dummy, just handing off insulation or holding the sheet. Because it's really hard, especially when we travel outside our traditional footprint. I can't be paying guys per diem and going all over the country because, we're just not going to be competitive because the non-union's knocking at the door. A lot of non-union outfits like to do metal buildings, so it doesn't take a whole lot of equipment, that kind of stuff. One thing we're doing, especially out in the Dayton area, is we're seeing a lot of metal studs with Den's glass and putting the metal sheeting on top of that. We have a job currently going on down in Troy, Ohio, where we're doing that, where the GC is putting on the metal studs and the Den's glass, and then we're putting our sheeting on top of that. It's horizontal, 6-inch wide, almost like what carpenters do for their vinyl siding, but we're doing, the ironworkers are claiming it. Same thing with on top of wood structures and that kind of stuff. It's no different in installation other than the screw you're putting in. So just training in that kind of stuff. Right. And then absolutely also all the Butler, Varco, Pruden, all the main buildings, installation techniques for those systems as well.
All right. Dave, do you have anything to add on the training you'd like to see?
Yeah, I think Brad hit the nose on the head about the mock-ups. I think the mock-ups are key to get them into the apprenticeship programs. So these guys, when they come on the job, they at least know the basics. Because like I said, the days of just a guy just holding a piece of trim while another guy screws it on, it's just, you can't be competitive that way. We need guys to be ambitious and get out there and learn these buildings. And the big thing that we run into when we get into other areas is not really having guys we feel confident on the trimming packages. That's a finished look, and that's it's got to be done. It's got to be done right. We need guys that are trained to do it. And when you go back to the first slide, and you see the old building versus the new. You're getting in some pretty strategic cuts, and it's key.
All right, thank you. And finally, I frequently hear local leaders say they don't have enough contractors. All of you have proven that you're not afraid to venture into new areas, both geographically and in the scope of work. What are some of the things a local or district council need to do to grow their metal building market and encourage contractors to come and work in their areas? Todd, would you like to start that?
Sure. Thanks, Dave. It's basically two things. I'd like to see one of two things. I would like to be able to bring, have some kind of portability agreement where I can bring my key guys or more if need be that can do the job competently and efficiently to make everybody look good. Or I also need, when I go to whatever local, I need to have guys that are able to take the key position roles, be able to run a lap on a roof, or be able to cut a 45-degree angle for the framed opening trims. Those are the two biggest things: is a portability agreement and competent people.
Right. And Dave, what would encourage you to venture out into another area?
Well, like I said, I think Todd hit it again. Basically, we all having the same issues. Mobility of adequate manpower. I need to take my guys that I'm confident I know that can do the work. When I get in other areas, I need to know that when I contact the business agents, the locals, that I'm going to get metal building guys that can do the work to keep me coming back to that area.
All right. And Brad, do you have anything to add there?
Yeah, there's a couple of things that would really help us out when we're traveling. Is one, I believe every district council has a pre-injured metal building agreement of some sort. to get access to those, to have the locals put them on their websites is really helpful for us. A lot of times, we're bidding this stuff at night, working on these projects at night, and we just can't, call the local, talk to them and things like that. So have that stuff accessible on the websites is really great. Secondly, is as far as the pre-engineered metal building agreements, we understand the fact that you can't cut the wage by $10 because you want to have guys that come up and work for that. But anything you can do for us as far as per diem, if it's outside the immediate area, things like that would, having 40 hours, that would be the first 40 hours would not be overtime, or up to 10 hours a day before we start hitting overtime. Just those little adjustments really make it more favorable for us, because we are competing against a huge non-union market that really don't play by the rules all the times.
Yeah, I think that as far as I think as far as crew sizes, sometimes that comes into play, especially on some smaller projects. When I come in other areas, we're all trying to work safe and adequate, but we're trying to compete as well with non-union companies that are coming in there, working from sun up to sundown, and you just getting adequate crew sizes for the job. Sometimes we don't need a 5-man raising gang for a 30 by 30 small metal, some of these smaller buildings, and it's just to kind of keep us competitive.
See the non-union all the time, especially like on a 10 or 15 foot tall wall. They'll have 2 guys putting it up, and they're paying those guys $25 an hour, no benefits, and it's really hard. Our guys are good. Our guys are damn good, but it's hard to make up that difference,
Dave Beard, we have a question, if I could interrupt for 1 minute.
Go ahead.
So the question is, where do you see the biggest jurisdictional attack on it? Is it the sheet metal, is it the carpenter, or is it non-union, or all three?
It's by far the non-union is the biggest jurisdiction.
That's what I would say too, is non-union.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There are areas in the country where the sheet metal do quite a bit of the buildings. The carpenter several years back created a metal building agreement that just basically gutted their contract and said, do whatever you want. But predominantly, on the union side, the ironworkers do the work. And I can tell you, networking, I don't know if you call this a compliment or not, I do. Networking in the metal building industries, different organizations like the erectors groups, the non-union workers want to refer to themselves as iron workers, not carpenters or sheet metal. Yeah.
One of the other questions I have is not so much of a question, but they mentioned putting our contract on the website. But the problem with that is the non-union can also see them, so they lower their prices to accommodate it. So we get that. Anybody's ironworkers, most locals now have websites, and when you put that website out, it's out there for the public. But we have a big target on our back with all our contracts anyway, with our prevailing rate and things like that. So I wouldn't be afraid to put anything out there on the website. We're always going to be have that guy that wants to lower his rate, but don't let that be an impediment to putting information about metal buildings on your websites.
And I have everybody's district council agreement. I have it, a copy of it. So if a contractor in your area is looking at traveling out and they ask you a question, and I try to let our erectors know that I do have a copy of any agreement. If they want to go somewhere, you can contact me and I can get it for you.
And there was mention about, giving some levity. The answer isn't putting more apprentices on that, because obviously with these, they're like lifetime warranties on these buildings, and like Dave said, and the three guests said that, to go back and do rework on this is, man, that's big money. It takes away their profit totally. So you got to put it up the right way the first time, no leaks, the warranties there. So the answer isn't specifically putting, apprentices on there to lower the rate. You do have the option too. Most CBAs allow for 4-10 schedule before overtime comes in. So working with your district councils and have that conversation. In some district councils, we've lost that market share, right? That's why we have the metal building agreement. Other ones were still pretty strong. So it's something we really have to pay attention to. There's a lot of man hours, and the future is just going to keep growing in the metal building industry.
Right, and one thing they all have in common, whether you have a strong market or no market, there's more and more pressure, right? Even the strong markets are getting more and more pressure from the non-union sector. So, you know, any enhancements we can do to make ourselves better is good for all of us.
Yeah.
So Dave, we're going to wrap up. If you want to just ask for any closing comments, I'd appreciate it.
Right, Brad, anything in closing?
Just want to say thank you for allowing us to come here today to understand a little bit more about the metal building markets. We greatly appreciate the cooperation between the contractors and the ironworkers through Impact, and glad to be part of the organization, and will continue to push the metal building market forward. Thank you.
Todd?
Oh, to reflect on what Brad said, I appreciate all the effort and training that we do get from the locals we're in currently. And I definitely think we're grabbing more market share. And I think if we put our heads together, I think we can continue to grab more of the market.
All right, finally, Dave?
Yeah, I think we're moving in the right direction with training. I mean, there's always work to be done, and that's just key. We got to get the guys out, get the guys wanting. Even the older iron workers need to get them, you know, get in there and want to learn some of these metal buildings if they haven't picked them up, you know, to date. But we need everybody to get on board with this to attack the market.
All right. Well, again, I thank my panel for taking your time today, and thank everybody for joining us.